You're listening to the Extraordinary Everyday Podcast with Wendy Johnson, episode number 32.
Welcome to the Extraordinary Everyday Podcast, where women come to be inspired and motivated to become the best version of themselves and elevate the quality of their everyday. Now, here's your host, certified life coach, Wendy Johnson.
Hello, beautiful friends. I hope you're all doing wonderful. I am doing fabulous, and we are finally having nice weather where I can spend a lot of time outdoors. This is my favorite time of the year. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today in the episode. I'm talking about how to create what you want. I love this question because when I ask a prospective client or a client, what do you want? A lot of times they start thinking about things they want, that they want the universe to provide for them. And I like to think about creating something in my life, that I'm creating the opportunities, that I'm creating the results, and I'm creating these things in my life so I can enjoy and have them. And I'm not expecting for somebody else or for the universe to provide them to me. When I know that I'm the one that creates them, then I can use my mind to create whatever it is I want. And when you want to create something, you're going to need to go through the process of change. You're no longer going to be the person you were before you created it. And this process of change has to happen. And the change takes place in your brain. And right now we have unconscious programming in the brain that's creating our current reality. And the reality is created by what you think and what you choose to focus on in your life. That's what's creating the reality that you have now. Everything that you ever wanted, to get married, to have kids, to lose weight, to take a new job, to get a higher education. These were all things that you had to create and you had to think about before you created them. So as I said, when you want to create something different in your life, you'll have to think differently. And the way that the brain works is that it has a thought that it learns, and it learns this thought in the prefrontal cortex. That's where you're learning, and you're creating a new neural pathway. And it makes the brain happy. It's learning something new and exciting. To become unconscious in the back of the brain, you have to do a lot of repetition. It's just like learning a foreign language or learning your ABCs when you were younger or learning math problems. The way that you learn anything is by repeating it over and over. And I often have talked about your thoughts create your feelings generate actions, and your actions create results. So I want to look at this from a backwards perspective. So let's start with, what is the result you want in your life? What is it that you want to create? Write that down at the bottom. And then what are the actions that you're going to need to take to accomplish that result, to create that result? What will you have to do? And in order to do that, you'll have to feel a certain way in order to do that on a regular basis, as often as you need to get the repetition in. And what thoughts will you need to think in order to feel that way? So that's going from the bottom to the top. And the thinking needs to change. And in order to create the result, it needs to become unconscious. It's not something that's new and that you're learning. It just happens. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't have to think about how to brush your teeth or that you're going to brush your teeth because you've been repeating it over and over since you were a little kid. But have you had a child and taught them how to brush their teeth? It's very difficult and they don't get it. And often you have to go back over with the toothbrush to help them out. And then the dentist has to continue to teach them how to do it until it becomes unconscious. Or maybe it's the same drive you take to work every day, or the drive you take to drop your kids off at school. You don't have to think about what you're doing because you're doing it so often. It's being repeated. You just do it. It's all unconscious. That's what you want to do with something that you want to create. But most of us don't know about the process of creation. Most of us want to get the thing, but we don't want to think about how to get it. That's why many of us stop creating when there's some preemptive script in front of us. So go back to your childhood. You knew you were going to go to kindergarten, and then grade school, and then middle school, and then high school, and then go to college, and then get married, and then have a couple of kids and get a good job. You know that ahead of time. That's what you're thinking about ahead of time. And you're imagining what that future life would be like. But what happens is a lot of us get to that point and we stop thinking ahead of time. So you want to practice the thinking, create the right feeling, and the believing ahead of time. And there's this space. Say you want a Tesla, and right now you can't afford a Tesla. And then you have a thought that you want to believe, I can easily afford this beautiful Tesla. And you're in between those two models. And the way you'll know that is because you won't yet believe that new thought that you can easily afford it. And it's not going to create the right feeling that you're wanting to be able to create it. That's why you know you're not quite believing the creation yet. You're stuck in that in between. And to go through that discomfort between two thoughts, there's this cognitive dissonance. So you have to step your thoughts up to that future thought by continually thinking the right thoughts and taking action. As soon as we decide what we want, something comes up. So when we're stuck in between wanting something and having something during this creation mode, there's three tendencies that happen. The first one is you're too busy to figure this all out. You tell yourself, oh, you don't really know if that's the right thing. So you just continue to keep living each day as the days before. Or you take a lot of action to create the results, and the action is driven out of fear, and you're not changing your thoughts and feelings. You're grunting through it, powering through it, and not enjoying the process. And the third one is you fail before you start. You begin to visualize your failure of not being able to do it rather than the success of doing it. You think about all the times it hasn't happened in the past. And unfortunately, most people weren't taught to create their life on purpose from the inside out. They let the outside world change to start creating the emotions that they're seeking. And they're living in an outside-in world. And guess what? Things and people cannot create those feelings. Money can't create the feelings. Weight loss can't create the feelings. Another person can't create the feelings. A better economy can't create the feelings. The weather can't create the feelings. Have you talked to a friend and they're just not having a great day? And they say it's because it's gloomy out and it's raining and the weather sucks. So they've let that outside world affect their inner world. and your feelings are only created from the thoughts in your mind. I know I'm repeating this a lot, but this is something new that I learned that I want to pass on to you. It wasn't until the coaching world that I understood this. You change the filter or lens that you see in the world. You can have a beautiful, joyful day, even though the weather sucks, even when there's a bad economy. And you can create what you want now and not one day when. Often, most of us get stuck in one of those three areas in that in between. You're too busy to figure it out. You take a lot of action without changing thoughts and feelings, and you fail before you start. And when I learned this, my whole world changed. I began to spend a lot of time doing the vision work and the creation work to completely change my life. And you don't have to achieve a result to chase that feeling, but you're creating that feeling one thought at a time. And the result is not going to give you that feeling, the end result. You don't want to rely on the end result to give you the feeling, because you may not get the result for a long time. Many people get what they want. They get the money, the car, the house. They lost the weight, and they still don't feel grateful, happy, and loving. And I can relate to this. In the early 90s, when I was working in commercial real estate, I dieted myself down to a size 2. And I wore beautiful suits to work every day. I loved dressing up. But on the inside, I was a mess. I was constantly beating myself up. I was so hard on myself if I screwed up. And I disciplined myself by withholding food and withholding love until I felt better, until I got what I expected that I needed to do. And I had a friend whose husband passed away, and she received $1 million life insurance policy. But she was scared and living in fear. She was afraid of not having enough, that she wasn't enough. She thought the money would run out. How can I survive? I'm just a mom. I can't make money. She wasn't confident, happy, or grateful for all that she had in her life right then, even with that very sad loss. Why does this happen? Because outside circumstances won't permanently change how you feel, but how you feel will greatly impact your external circumstances. And when you begin to observe your thoughts and notice how they impact your life, by observing them and shifting them, you can break free from the chains of the past, the unconscious thoughts, and you can create new thoughts to create a new future. And you do this with your imagination and with repetition. Every time a self-limiting belief shows up during that in-between, you have to manage your thoughts. And right now, today, if what you want is to lose 10 pounds or have the man of your dreams or go live in Europe or have more money in your bank account, you can create your new future right now. Without losing a pound, you can dress and act confidently now. Without having the man of your dreams in your life, you can begin a love affair with yourself. Without visiting Europe, you can bring qualities of Europe into your life now. I always thought I would be living in France, and I made the decision to bring the French life to me. I watch French films. I've read books about France. I listen to podcasts on the French way of life. And you do all this by creating a beautiful inner world. And then a beautiful outer world will begin to present itself to you. And contrary to what others may think, I didn't have to move to France to experience the beauty and elegance of where I live now. I didn't need a ton of money in my bank account to experience the feeling of abundance for the riches I already have. I didn't need to be a certain way to be beautiful and sexy now. And I didn't need a company making hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach what I know and help others now. And how does this happen? I created the feelings that generated what I wanted my future to look like rather than looking for it or chasing after it or expecting the universe to give it to me. And I stopped waiting for one day when, and I started creating the thoughts and feelings right now. To create what you want, you have to become her. You have to play the part. You have to rehearse the script and repeat it. If you want love, a man of your dreams, you have to give yourself love and be love and not complain about what you don't have. If you want more money, you have to stop focusing on what's lacking in your life. If you want more appreciation and adoration, you must stop withholding it from yourself and others. If you want to have peace, you have to quit quarreling with others who don't agree with you. And you have to stop beating yourself up. So many women are stuck and frustrated with their circumstances, and they're waiting for them to change without even thinking about changing their mindset. They sit around and complain and talk about what they don't like. Here's some ways my clients and friends have felt stuck. They're seeking approval from their parents or a boss because they want to feel understood. They want their husband to behave differently in order to feel more loved. They're alone in the marriage. They want him to change rather than changing themselves. And they want their job to be different, and they hate it and they complain about it rather than being more creative and making more money by thinking different thoughts. And when you create this process of thoughts, feelings, actions, and results, it's a lot easier because it's attracting who you are to you. And the best part is you get to experience what you truly want because you get the experience now with visualization work. And here's the truth. It's not your husband, friend, parent, boss, or company to give you what you're after. This is personal outsourcing. When you outsource your emotional life to the outside world, only you can do that. Only you can create the feelings. You don't have to wait for the world to change to feel better. And when you do this, you're going to take inspired action. The action is going to be aligned and it's not going to feel draining. And we've had discussions in previous conversations with clients. And when I hear a client say, well, Wendy, that's great, but my situation is different. And when I hear that thought, I think it's just an excuse to stay stuck where you are. I think I'm going to put this on the back burner until next year when things calm down a little bit. So if you don't want those feelings of fear, worry, and resentment, then you have to create the new thoughts to create feelings of love, joy, health, sexy, confidence, and determination. And to create something you've never had, you have to become someone you've never been. And that can be scary, but also exciting and new. So you don't have to look at your current circumstances as if they're a problem, but they're one full of possibility. So you have to show up and repeat, think, and act in new ways. And when you withhold love and you're angry and resentful, you're not punishing the other person, you're only punishing yourself. And you decide to feel good. And if you're at a holiday dinner and there's a relative there that really annoys you, you let them be them. They get to be who they want to be and feel the way they want to feel. And it has nothing to do with you, and it doesn't even affect you. And I want to make a point here. This doesn't mean we aren't going to have challenging circumstances. That's part of life. It's 50% dark and 50% light. We're going to have loss, deaths, diagnoses that we don't want, but we accept that invitation with grace and compassion, and we allow it to be our greatest teacher, and it will help us evolve into the person that we desire to be. Sometimes we have to go through very difficult, dark times, but we do that with a calm mind and a peaceful heart. So if anything, I hope this episode helped you think about, well, what do you want right now? Is there something new that you want to create? And why do you want it? And how will you feel when you have it? We're all creators, and we're all creating something new. Think about this, guys. Think about what you want to create, and then do the process backwards. And your brain, when you visualize what you want, it doesn't know whether it's real or imaginary. When you visualize, you're getting your feelings excited and involved, and you're believing it's possible. And from that vibration, you're attracting that into your life. And you'll get wisdom in ways that you never dreamed of. Thank you for listening to the Extraordinary Everyday Podcast. It's my honor to show up here every week and connect with you, like-minded people wanting to take their life to the next level and create the best version of themselves. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Hey, if you enjoy listening to this podcast, you have to come check out More You, my community of like-minded women. We show up to create the highest version of ourselves and elevate the quality of our everyday along the way. Head over to ontracklifecoaching.com/join. That's ontraclifecoaching.com/join. I'd love to see you in there. And if you haven't grabbed your copy of the Mindset Makeover, head over to ontracklifecoaching.com/makeover and get a copy that teaches and inspires you to show up as your most extraordinary self.